Tiger, an organisation dedicated to giving wild tigers a future. Thank you for being here and helping us save tigers.
Let's kick off today's presentation with a nice big round of applause. We welcome our tiger handlers and our tigers out on the island. Of course, we're very lucky to have our amazing tiger handlers on the stage. We've got Dan on the microphone helping them out today. We've got Ben, Simon, Keith, and the other Dan as well. And of course, the stars of our presentation, these beautiful big cats themselves. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Tiger Island. We are so glad to have you here today to get to witness some amazing natural tiger behaviours and of course learn about one of the most important conservation messages facing the world today. Now, my name is Wildlife Al, and they call me that here at Dreamworld because I absolutely love animals. Who else out there loves animals? Make some noise, be hand in the air! Excellent, as he's sitting, fantastic. The animal kingdom really needs people like you to help care for all the endangered animals and ensure their survival, especially these beautiful creatures behind me. That's enough from me, let's throw it over to Dan on the island.
Thanks, Wildlife Al. Once again, guys, welcome along to Tiger Island. My name's Dan, and today I'm going to talk to you about the magnificent tigers that you see here in Dreamworld. Helping me out are my colleagues. We've got Dan on my left-hand side, Ben as well. Behind me is Keith, and on my right hand is Simon. Now today, three of the guys are going to work our magnificent tigers in order to show some very natural tiger behaviours. Joining us for this presentation out here, we've already had Wildlife Al introduce them, but in the middle we've got our orange cat. So this is a Akasha on my left-hand side with Ben. He's going to be working her. She's usually very energetic and very food motivated, so expect to see lots of activity from Akasha. Simon's going to be working Pi. He's a little bit older and a little bit more accustomed to the behaviours in the presentation, so he's going to show us how it's all done. And over on my left-hand side, Dan's just going to try his best with Kiko, who does things in her own time. Now, Kiko was born in Japan, travelled here when she was about 4 months of age. Not quite as athletic or as energetic as the other two, but there's a few behaviours we'll definitely encourage her to try her hand at. But guys, now that we've met all the stars of our presentation, let's start it off with a big round of applause to welcome them along. Come on, guys. That's the way. Well, the tigers are all in position for our first group of behaviours that are going to involve full cream milk as a reward. The first one of these behaviours is really simple to start things off, and it's what we like to call a sit-up. Fly straight into it, Kiko with a helping hand, Akasha's there as well. Let's give them a big round of applause, guys. A great start to the presentation. Now, apart from just looking really cute, this is also a really natural behaviour. Now, from this position, tigers gain a distinct height advantage. It enables them to spot their prey at long distances whilst remaining undetected by the cover of tall grass. If you didn't know, tigers are solitary and territorial animals, so in order for them to communicate with other tigers, they will leave scent markings all throughout their territory. Sitting up, as Pi is still demonstrating, he could access scent markings that might ordinarily be out of reach on all fours. A very good indication of their size sitting up like that. They stand almost as tall as the handlers. Be aware, they can stretch out a little bit further, and to demonstrate, we'll move all three of the cats into our next behaviour that we call a rise. Now, Akasha, she's going to do it up on Ben's shoulder. Let's give Ben and Akasha a big round of applause. Pi and Kiko, they're going to stretch out against the tree at climbing pole, and that's where you would typically see a tiger performing this behaviour against the trunk of a tree. Perhaps trying to reach scent markings left by another tiger, but it's also a fantastic way to leave some territorial markings behind. To do so, stretch out against a tree, just like Akasha's doing with Ben, rub themselves all over the trunk of the tree and claw at its bark with those very sharp claws. Now, it does give you the illusion that to be a tiger handler, you would have to be very strong, holding a big tiger up on your shoulder, and we'd love you to think that, but the reality is the tigers are doing most of the work. In fact, they can hold themselves in a high leg stance without any help from us at all, and to demonstrate, we're going to ask Pi to show off what we call a fight stance. Now, we single him out because he's happy to do it for a milk reward. Being a natural behaviour, all of our tigers can perform a fight stance. As I mentioned, Pi happy to do it for a little milk treat. Let's see how he goes. Up on those hind legs. Let's give him a nice big round of applause. A great fight stance there from Pi. Now, in a fighting situation, a tiger will stand up just like Pi's done, which frees up the front paws and allows them to strike out at their opponent. The objective is to knock your opponent to the ground and inflict a killing bite using their very powerful canine teeth. Now, in my hand is a replica of a tiger's canine tooth, and as you can see, it's very big. It's about 14 centimetres from the root right down to the tip of the tooth. Like I said, just a replica. The guys, of course, showing off the real deal with a little bit of a helpful hand. Now, what you'll notice is that half of the tiger's canine tooth is exposed and the other half is embedded deep into the tiger's skull to provide a nice firm grip. What you probably can't see is that the exposed portion of the tooth has a number of grooves that run right down its length. Now, the grooves allow air to travel between the tooth and the flesh of the tiger's prey, making it easy for them to readjust their grip. Without grooves in their teeth, tigers might become a little stuck in whatever they bite because of the vacuum effect they will create with those very powerful jaws. One more look at those pearly whites, guys, and how about we give all three of the tigers a big round of applause for a nice start to the presentation.
Great stuff, Dan. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to take a step back in time and look at the history of these beautiful creatures. Now, a century ago, a series of tragic events took place that started the decline of the wild tiger population. 100 years ago, there were more than 100,000 wild tigers roaming throughout Southeast Asia, but today, there are less than 4,000, and the number is still dropping. As the human population grew, we displaced the tiger's natural habitat, and as space became scarce, the human and tiger conflict became inevitable. Now, some of the images you're about to see on the screen behind me may be a little bit confronting, but they do really illustrate the huge impact that we as humans have had on the wild tigers, and of course, the extraordinary lengths the tigers have been forced to resort to just in order to survive. Now, we're going to talk a little bit later in the presentation about what we're trying to do to save the wild tiger, but I think Kiko's ready to jump into the next behaviour.
Jump, she certainly is. I like your choice of words. We've got her up on the platforms and we're going to show off a little bit of the tiger's jumping ability. Now, Kiko's a pretty good jumper, very, very motivated for this behaviour, and that's because the meat has just come out. Of course, being a tiger, Kiko loves meat. Now, she's a pretty good jumper, as I mentioned. She overdoes it a little bit high, a little bit long, but pretty motivated. She's right on Dan's heels, up into the air, bit of a jump. Let's give her a round of applause. She nearly left the ground. This is good stuff. Let's give her a big clap. We're going to give Kai a go at this as well. The first thing you'll notice is a lot more relaxed about it. As I mentioned, Kiko gets a little bit overly excited. Kai, having done this behaviour plenty of times, only uses as much energy as required. He basically puts all four of his paws on the edge of the platform and pushes himself to the other side. Bearing in mind it's a 3 metre gap and he's almost 3 metres long, so a pretty easy jump for a big tiger like Kai. Now, just like we did with Kiko, we do like to finish things off with a jump from our platforms, so we're going to try to do the same thing. A little bit of meat to slow him down, so one more time across, and then we'll see if we can get a little bit of a jump off the ground. It doesn't always work, but fingers crossed, he's feeling pretty hungry today and we'll see a nice big jump. A little bit to slow him down. Simon's giving himself a head start. And over he goes, onto the ground and hopefully into the air. Almost. Let's give him a big round of applause, guys. Some fantastic platform jumps. And what we're going to do for you guys is just slow things down a little bit and show off a learnt behaviour. So far you've seen natural behaviours that tigers will use for their survival in the wild. This next one, we've trained our tigers to make our lives a little bit easier. In the guys' hands, wooden boards that we call mark boards, and when we place them onto the ground, you can see what our tigers do. They walk over and place both of their front feet on them. Now, it's a very simple form of training and one that all of our tigers are usually happy to be involved in. As you can see, it requires very little effort in return for those food rewards. Now, it proves very useful if we want to perform veterinary or husbandry checks on our tigers. The catch, of course, is that our vet doesn't have the same relationship with our tigers that we obviously do. So by incorporating mark training, we can keep a tiger focused elsewhere and our vet can move on in. That also proves to be very useful when the tigers are involved in film and television work. And typically in those situations, they're exposed to numerous distractions they may never have experienced before. By incorporating mark training, we can keep a tiger focused on us and under our control when they are in those new environments. During filming, if we need to move tigers from one point to another and remain out of shot, we can do this by placing multiple mark boards on the ground. Now, with a slight cue, the tigers will move from point A to B or mark to mark, just as they're demonstrating at the moment. The main reason we have our tigers involved in film and television work is so that we can generate money for the Dreamworlds Wildlife Foundation. As Al mentioned earlier, tigers have suffered a 96% reduction in wild population in the last 100 years, and sadly, this is largely due to human actions. Things like deforestation, illegal farming, poaching have all taken a massive toll on the tiger's wild population. Now, through the Dreamworlds Wildlife Foundation, there are a number of ways that we have helped contribute to the tiger's wild life. Now, through the Dreamworlds Wildlife Foundation, we generate a lot of money through our guest programs, interactive experiences, also through our donation boxes that we have scattered around the park. Now, we've generated over $2.5 million that has gone directly overseas to fund groups like the ones that you saw on the big screen. If you would like to help, as I said, there are a number of ways that you can take part. One of those ways, take part in any one of our animal encounters where a percentage of that money goes directly towards DWF. I mentioned our donation boxes scattered around the park. Nearest one is just outside the shop, and we can guarantee 100% of what goes in will go directly towards tiger conservation. Another way you can help is to purchase one of our paw paintings. We have these for sale inside the shop for a $10 donation to the Dreamworld Wildlife Foundation. You can take one of those paw prints home. 100% of the money raised by those paw paintings going directly towards DWF. So a very important side of Tiger Island, and something that we do like to touch on, but of course, most of you are here to see amazing natural tiger behaviours. So, with that in mind, who out there wants to see a tiger climb a tree? Woo, yeah! About half of you. Come on guys, who wants to see a tiger climb a tree? Yeah! That's the way. Alright folks, most of the information that we found in regards to tigers and tree climbing tells us that they aren't really renowned for this behaviour. Pi's going to show us otherwise today, proving not only tigers can climb trees, but also they're pretty good at it as well. Check this out. In a minute. There he goes. In position. 1, 2, 3. 3 strides right to the very top. How about a big round of applause for Pi? Fantastic stuff. Awesome on the way up, but also very clever coming back down. Now, instinctively, a tiger might just jump off at that height. Pi, though, shimmies down to a nice, safe height before finally letting go. All that upper body strength, holding it in position. Let's give him another big round of applause. Well done, Pi. So keep that in mind, folks. If you ever are on the run from the tiger, don't climb a tree. Now, unfortunately, we have reached the end of our presentation. We've only got one more behaviour to go, but you're in luck because this next one happens to be my favourite. We're going to ask Pi and Akash to jump off boards at the back there into the air for a treat, but the really cool thing about this behaviour is that we get to be the ones to cue it. So we're going to have a practice. On the count of 3, I want you all to yell out the word jump as loudly as you can. Here we go. 1, 2, 3! Yeah! See, I'm not sure if they can hear you from all the way back. We're going to have to be as loud as we can. Here we go. One more time. 1, 2, 3! Yeah! That's pretty good. Pretty good, that second one, guys. As you can see, Simon and Ben just positioning our tigers at Kasha and Pi, nice distance back from the launch, and this is going to help build momentum. Now, Pi and Akasha are pretty clever. They've worked out what goes up also comes back down. So we won't be throwing their rewards in the air. Instead, we'll manage their criteria by using a wooden pole just to maintain its height, keep it up at the right distance. Now, Simon and Ben look ready to go. So get those voices ready, guys. 1, 2, 3, yeah! They go right in time. Give them a big round of applause. And let's keep that applause going for our amazing tiger handlers. Thank you so much for coming out here today, folks. We hope you enjoyed seeing all these amazing natural abilities and of course hearing about the great work of the Dreamworlds Wildlife Foundation. Now, before you do go anywhere, we have got one last message for you from some of the anti-poaching patrol over in Sumatra, right here on the big screen.
Terima kasih atas bantuan dalam pelestarian harimau Sumatera.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your day here at Dreamworld and bye for now. Have that big round of applause for Wildlife Foundation.
Thank you very much, Dan. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
So, folks, as you can see, we are positioning our tigers right up the front of the island, so we do like to take a few photographs of them before we do head off. Now, we do ask that you don't jump over that front rail at the front of the grandstand. Safety rail, please use the appropriate exits so you can make your way right up to the front of the moat and grab a few photos of the cats while they are positioned nicely. Once again, guys, thanks for joining us and enjoy your day here at Dreamworld.